I wanted to say, first of all, the difference to me between a standard definition and high definition lighting is really nothing. It really isn't. And I was trying to think about quantify it. And the difference between a Rembrandt painting and South Park is lighting, or taking away light from different places. On HD, some of you saw the NewsHour HD on one side and SD on the other. And you're able to see the graduations a lot better in HD than SD, where it just kind of falls off into black. Let's see. Over here, what that allows, it's the greater sensitivity, and it allows us to use a lower level of light to get certain effects. In here, most of the shows I project on the Cyc. Greg, could you bring up 73 and up to about 76 full? 74, 75, and 76. This is a dark, it's purple. And I think in SD, it wouldn't have read very well, but the HD or the digital cameras, you can really get the color saturation. So we light, bring up 50 and 51, Greg. It's kind of a virtual, so it's like a slide projection, and we do a show called To the Contrary. In standard definition or analog, it just doesn't have the same impact that it does in HD. I think basically lighting in background, that's what I've found, that I can get more saturation in HD. The other thing is, when I came to WIDA, they had some big mole 4Ks, soft lights. A lot of you guys know about units and vector scopes and stuff like that. I don't, but I think you used to have to run about 200 foot candles. Back in the old, I was worked in the field, the TK76s. It was maybe not 200, but pretty close. And now we can work around 60, 70 foot candles to light people's faces. So that allows us to to really cut the light sources. We can have the big sources, but instead of a 125 pound 4K, you can use fluorescent lights. They started because of this. And some of the LED lights that Jeremy brought. All of the backgrounds that you see in HD, I think they're all really noticeable. And the controlled lighting is the important thing, rather than just a big broad light that washes out everything, and it just looks very two-dimensional, again, like the South Park versus Rembrandt stuff. So we try and light all of the little details, and it seems to pop out a lot more. Anybody have any questions? I guess that'd be a better way to start at this point. No?
Well, for example, this set, if you were doing a show with actual people, how bright would you typically have it?
About 70 foot candles for the round table.
Yeah, so I don't know where we are now.
Right now it's probably about 30.
Okay.
Because I brought it down. Because it's hard to work under you got to have big money if you want to work under the hot lights. That's why they pay them the big bucks.
Don't you find with the newer cameras, the sensitivity is enough that you can keep the light levels lower?
Yes.
And then does it also make it more depth of field because you have open iris more? Don't you get a nicer depth of field?
Well, that's a good question. The depth of field, it's always nice, we generally like to get rid of the depth of field as much as possible to have the background out of focus, which is the reason why these are out of focus. They do focus very sharply, but if they're soft, it gives a separation, the feel of 3-dimension. There's the dB gain in the cameras goes to a -3 dB, and we have to use it on some of the sets next door because the background dictates the iris. The Duratrans are lit from behind, and once we get those at the level we want, or we can only get to down to a certain level, then you light the people, and it's a little hotter in there than it is in here. The people are lit at about 80 or 90 foot candles. I think it's best, there's a lot of people in here, I think it'd be best if we, to go next door, we can talk about the set pieces in there. Mike's company, TSA, built an HD, and we can do the makeup.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Can you comment a little bit about the migration in lighting from incandescent to fluorescents and LEDs and color temperature and what that does about if you mix light sources? And that's not to do with HD specifically, this is developing lighting techniques and lighting technologies.
Right. Next door, the lights are set. I don't have any fluorescents in here, but we have them complementing the Fresnels and tungstens. There is a little difference. I can tell on the side of somebody's head if there's a fluorescent in there because they're not as low a temperature as the tungstens. They're a little bit bluer. Getting dry here. I'd prefer all the same color temperature because it is noticeable in HD to me if there's another temperature source that's not supposed to be there.
But you can get LED lighting that matches color temperature for tungstens, can you? Or do you have to use filtering?
Well, and this is one reason why Jeremy DeBow from Barbizon came. He brought these lights, the LEDs, and since we don't have any in the studio, I'm not, and one reason why I asked him to come in and bring him in, if you see, where is Jeremy? Oh, okay, so you can ask Jeremy, but Jeremy simply, here, can you come here for just a second? So what you're saying is if the lights, let's say if the lights are 3,000 Kelvin in there, can you take the LEDs and change them, bring them down that temperature?
There are different versions of LEDs. Some have color temperature altering, where basically they're using daylight and tungsten lamps. So you can dial in the daylight and dial in the tungsten to balance out your color temperature. Some companies even make color temperature dial where you can dial in and out the green and magenta to match some of your other fluorescents. With fluorescents and LEDs, one of the big issues is actually when you dim your traditional tungsten lighting, you're going to get a significant drop in temperature. You'll see some of that out of the fluorescents, hardly any out of LEDs. So when you're running, these are 3200 balanced LEDs. When you're running these at full compared to a tungsten, theoretically they shouldn't mix. However, different light sources, fluorescents using gases, LEDs using different technology, there's going to be some minor variation even at full, but when you start dimming your tungstens and you drop from 3200, it'll drop down past 3050 into the 2900s. That's when you really start to see some of the color temperature difference. So when you do have a set, when you're obviously not going to be running everything at full, that's really where you're going to start to see the issues, especially with the fluorescents. With fluorescents, you can get, they have a wide variety of different lamps to get different color temperatures. You can run them at 2900 Kelvin, 3000 Kelvin, 32, etc. And when you dim them, they will have some color temperature shift. but not to the same level as the tungsten. So that's going to be one of your major sources of mixing color temperature, mixing different lighting sources.
Typically, I am on a set with that mix that you're talking about.
Yeah.
This is Suzanne, our makeup artist for the evening.
No, I mean, I'm identifying by what he's saying because I'm into that all the time. So with the LED, is that more of a fill?
Actually,
Certain ways to
the LEDs are actually, the source of the light is a very, pretty much a pin spot type of a light. Getting the larger soft source out of an LED is still, they really haven't, it's hard to do. Fluorescents are really the much better fill light, the much better softer source just by the nature of the light.
Let me bring these down.
That flat out to make it a softer source, you'll see different lenses, same that you would do with Fresnel by putting diffusion or tough spun, etc. on the fixture. So that's how you would typically soften out those. But the LEDs, like Charlie had mentioned, with new advancement in cameras and using lower foot technologies, really opens the door for more efficient lighting because you don't need the 5Ks and the 2Ks nearly as much as you used to. I mean, one of these lights that I have here, they draw about 0.3 amps. So you could literally run a small studio off of a single circuit. And the same goes for fluorescence. You're not going to be cranking the AC as much. So there are definite benefits, but you do have to be careful when mixing lighting sources, and it is a minor art form.
This is a good kind of an example of what you were saying. This is an LED strip down here, and this doesn't have a lens in it, right? And it comes with a medium and wide lens, medium or wide.
You can get different lenses for it that'll spread it out.
It spreads it out and knocks down the color intensity, but it does. But for fill lights, the light panels are.
Light panels are better, but again, with the LED source, you pretty much still have to diffuse LEDs in order to get that soft source. Some of the manufacturers have lenses that come with it, or you can get them separately that will help spread out that light. LED is a larger source, and simple rule for lighting, a larger source is a better source. So there are different brands who approach it in different ways, but they all kind of face the common problem, and they're trying to find new ways around it. Really, LED technology has really only taken off in the TV field over the past 2 years, and this is really the height of the incline in the LED technology for TV studios. They've come a long way. It's been there for more entertainment, theatrical purposes for a long time, so they've got the color changing technology down, but in getting into the CRI index to bring out better skin tones in the 3200. They've really only started coming with a better advancements in that in the past couple of years. So, but they're really doing a much better job of that.
Is it
Color rendering index.
No, I mean, is it above 90?
On these new ones,
On the
this Neil on the right, I believe the CRI on that is about 88 or 89. So it's approaching that 90. With fluorescent, again, it depends. A big part of what depends on the fluorescence is the lamp you get. There are lamps in the 92 to 94 CRI index, but there's still a wide range. You have to pay attention on what lamp you're buying for the fixture. What's that?
Can you define what that is?
CRI, color rendering index. Simple way of saying it is the sun is 100 CRI, and it's based on. Simple way to think of it is bringing out flesh tones properly, making it look like natural, natural spectrum of light. So the lower the CRI, the more artificial the light's going to look, the more bland it's going to make your skin tones, and yeah.
Can you run fluorescents and LEDs on the same thyristor dimmers as the incandescents, or you've got to redo the lighting control when you migrate to new technologies?
It depends on the system. LEDs, typically you cannot run on phase dimmable circuits. These have built-in DMX control, so that's how you're going to vary the intensity on those. You can't put them in a traditional dimming system. Fluorescents, you can get phase dimmable ballasts, so you can run them off of the same system as everything else.
So the LEDs typically have the dimming capability built into the fixture, and you just send it control signals.
Yes, more or less. You can get fluorescents made like that too. It just depends on the ballast that's in there. But if you go into Home Depot and you look for the LEDs like we were talking about, you'll see non-dimmable on those.
Yeah, the ones I got at home are not dimmable.
Right, because they, as far as I know, very few anyway, run off of a phase dimmable type of power. Again, like we were talking earlier.
When did the reduction in light levels start to kick in? Because I mean, back in my days, when long time ago, I worked in TV studios, we were working 1500 or 2000 lux. So that wasn't, I guess SD cameras became more sensitive, you could drop light levels then,
Yeah.
even before we got to HD.
And 2,000 lux is about 180 foot candles, something like that?
It used to be industry standard.
Yeah, something.
It's been gradual, but especially with the digital change, that I think that was a big factor in when, you know, there wasn't an official time point. They've been building better technology as the year goes on. So
Early cameras, right, went from tubes to
CCD.
different than CMOS.
Charlie, a lot of these instruments up here look like the same instruments you used to use
Yep.
to create a couple of 100-foot candles. So now you're using those same instruments to create 90.
Yeah.
Just dimming them down, or using lower wattage lamps in them?
Lower wattage. These lights, a lot of them are 2Ks, and have maybe a 1K bulb in it, so you can back off on the power, and which helps when you go pay the power bill. It's not as good as having fluorescents and LEDs, obviously, but it does help. As I said, we had like 4K soft lights in here for an old program that used to be in here called Jump Street in the studio, and they had to light it up to, again, about 2,000 lux, as you say. It's just not necessary anymore. And again, that's not an HD thing. That's a digital. That's a digital cameras. The sensitivity's gotten much better. That is why the LED lights with the less, I mean, they're not punching out. They don't have the same punch that these cyc lights up here do, but you don't need to have it as much. That's why I'm able to use more saturated colors on the cyc now than 15 years ago. They were more pastel. And it's just a little more dramatic. The lighting, you can make it more dramatic than you used to.